Breaking news: insecurity, bomb explosion rocks Imo State once again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wonderful people, also freedom all over the world. Wherever you're joining us from today, you're highly welcome to this wonderful YouTube platform once again. Welcome you to Expose News TV as we continue to give you all the important news and information happening in Biafraland territory. And today we are going to Imo State. Once again, insecurity continues in Imo State. And this time around, it is in Mbiri. Without wasting much of your time, let us go straight up to the news in details. The news. A bomb explosion has destroyed a newly constructed bungalow in Umuneke, Mbiri, located in Mbaitolu local government area of Imo State. The blast, which occurred on Saturday night, left the community in a state of fear. Though the cause of the explosion at the time of filing this report is not known. According to sources, the house had only recently been completed, with the owners planning to move in by February of this year. A source said, "We just heard a massive sound which was heard in other villages. When we gathered the nerves to check the cause of the sound, we saw this newly completed bungalow in rubble." The painful part is that the couple worked hard to build their house and plan to move in February. We still don't know what caused the explosion, but it doesn't look ordinary. We slept last night with one eye open, but we are hoping to get information on what really happened. Hopefully, when the owners come, they will authorize a proper inspection of the house. Meanwhile, Imo State Police Command is here to issue a statement in respect to the development, and there is nothing more, to say about this, apart from the fact, that they have dropped their normal missile that they've been dropping in Biafraland. There was videos. I've dropped a lot of videos on these. The Zoo Army are currently dropping missiles, and it was just a matter of those couples were unlucky and the missile dropped in their own bungalow. This is how they've been, bombing a lot of places in Biafraland with missile. That is even the funniest thing. Missiles. And the Zoo media have a way of hiding this thing. Even this particular news now they brought up, they are trying to still cover it up to make it look as if as if it was a supernatural thing. But we know fully well what is happening. We know fully well what is happening. And the sweetest part of it is that even Musa at this point is not even hiding it anymore. He's saying it. That there is a WAR happening in Biafraland, and he's saying it over and over again, in as much as he continues to deny the fact that they are buying innocent people in Biafraland. He continues to deny the fact and continue to run away from the fact that they are not even destroying properties and lives of innocent people. But the reality is that we are saying these things because we are in the age of social media. Just spam just a video and it will go viral. And we will be here, to try as much as possible, to distribute these things online. Once we post this kind of news, at least it should go viral. Let the world continue to know. Finland needs to know. The major reason why the Prime Minister Simon Ekpa is fighting for his people, the major reason why the Prime Minister Simon Ekpa is doing what he's doing for the freedom of his people, they need to understand. They need to know his stance. So that is that on that issue. Now let us go into a very important why I call it important is because this particular interview has been trending, and it's the interview of Musa, where he was able to throw another lie. But let us go straight up to this one. We'll come back, with the news.
Clearly. Thank you very much.
Okay, and that's originally about the significance of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, all of us celebrating our soldiers living and dead. And then, just on the sidelines, by the way, in parentheses, you said there will be a dinner event tomorrow in honor, this very symbolic, very significant occasion. And I said, you listed people that you have invited. You didn't mention that you invited the media. Are we not part of this very important occasion? We all should honor the military.
Every activity that we carry out, the media is always with us. Yesterday we were together with the media. Today we're going to do it with them, and tomorrow as usual.
Well, thank you so much, General Musa. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us again on the morning show. Great to see you. Happy New Year. So, very quickly, and first of all, thank you for honoring our heroes departed, and also remembering and shoring up the morale of our gallant soldiers in the front line. But I want to ask you a question around security. And that's part of the conversation we hope to have with you this morning. Yes, I hear you, and I do agree with you that over the Christmas period, at least a departure from what we've seen in recent times, we had relative calm. However, this issue with terrorism, Boko Haram, despite years of monies being spent, announcements of decimation, it still is a big challenge for us. And in a recent interview, you talked about foreign sponsors perhaps behind the fact that they're still able to have enough funds to continue to perpetrate evil. I'd like you to throw more light on that. When you say foreign sponsors, what do you mean by that? And then is it impossible to even arrest that or contain that in trying to contain insecurity, especially finally decimating Boko Haram as a terrorist organization? Do you hear me, sir?
It's gone off. Hello?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. General Musa, did you hear me, please?
Right, yeah.
Did you hear me?
Towards the end, I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, that's fine. What you heard in terms of foreign sponsors... on that, please, and tell us what the army is doing or the military under your leadership is doing to arrest that.
It's something, it's a cause of concern. Actually, for them to have been able to sustain their operations for all this while, we're talking of 16 years. Like I said during the surrendering exercise, we were able to see some of them with hard currencies, different denominations. Besides that, like I said, they have a lot of support coming from outside. Now, what we have done is that we have raised these observations. The Office of the National Security Advisor, the NFIU, the Central Bank, the NIA, the DSS have all moved into it. What we are also doing is that we have reached out to the international community on the importance to trace the funds, trace the movement of the money. If we're able to do that, I'm sure we'll be able to, if we're able to take that out, we'll take the oxygen that keeps them going, which is very, very vital. It's a very dangerous and very high value organizations that we believe that be able to do that has made it difficult for them to be traced. So we're doing everything. And again, not only from the international, we know also, we have the belief that locally they also have the sources of funding, probably through taxes, levies, kidnapping, and so on. And that's why we're making all the efforts to ensure that we deny them ability to do that. But I can assure you the federal government has stepped in. We have reached into United Nations, the European Union, and all other international organizations to help assist in tracking the funds. I think, for me, I think it's important if we're able to do that, we'll be able to mitigate this issue and stop them, because this is what keeps them going For them to be able to sustain this for 16 years shows that they have other areas of getting funds that keeps them going.
All right, thank you very much for that, General. Now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, wrote quite an intriguing article last week where he spoke about the impact of G5 and how it strengthened some of the Awazad and the Tuareg groups and made insecurity worse. And he also spoke of the failure of the EU strategy, the EU SAHAL strategy, when it comes to security in the region. Now, of course, some of the latest developments on that are that we are seeing that some of these countries in the Sahel are witnessing the departure of French troops from their countries. Some voluntary, some being asked to leave. Now, my question is, I know that in the same interview that Ayo is referring to, you spoke of Nigeria standing alone and Nigeria not having any allies. But I'm curious to you, what is the impact that we will see on Nigeria's security situation of French soldiers departing from the Sahel nations? What do you think this will translate to, given the context that it is argued that their presence made insecurity worse?
All right, thank you very much. What we have observed is that the Sahelian area is having a lot of security challenges across the region. Just recently, about 3-4 days ago, Benin Republic suffered a very heavy casualty. The Nigerians have, the Malians have consistently, the Burkinabes have done that. There are also threats to Ghana and Togo. So it shows you all around Nigeria we're having these threats coming in. And why are they doing this? They are pushing further to be able to take over those areas. And that's why it's important that we must continue to unite and work together. Their exit from ECOWAS is not a good thing. And that's why I'm happy Mr. President has really given them the olive branch that it's important that we work together as Africans, as brothers and sisters. Whatever differences we might have, I think is usual. We don't expect to have everything 100%. But it's important for them to understand that we need to work together. Over the years, because we have continued to fight, we have over time developed a number of experience on how to go about this. And that's why you can see that we're achieving so much. Of recent, we have intensified our operations against the Lakurawas in the northwest area. And that now there will be attacks against soft targets. They will always want to do that because they will avoid where they have strongholds and go to weaker areas to do that, to show that they are still relevant, they are still potent. For the withdrawal of the French troops, those are sovereign countries, so I won't decide whether who they want to stay with, who they want to drive away. But the important thing is that they must stand strong. For us in Nigeria, if they fail, there'll be a lot of issues to Nigeria. And that's why we need them to be strong, because every country requires a buffer. We need them to be strong, and that's why whatever it takes, we need to make sure that they are together and they are strong enough to be able to weather the storm, the attacks. If you notice that these attacks come into Nigeria from these neighboring countries, and because the areas are porous, if they're able to secure their own borders, we will not have these attacks into Nigeria. And that's why it's very, very critical. Just recently, again, there were attacks on the pipeline, on the transnational pipeline between Benin, Niger Republic, across. It shows that people are trying to sabotage the effort and trying to deepen the crisis between Nigeria and Niger and others. But we have understood that, and that's why we're working together. All members of the armed forces are still working because we know that it is dangerous to allow us fail. We cannot afford to fail. So our unity of purpose in fighting against the terrorists, whether in Niger, Togo, Ghana, Mali, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Niger, is important that we remain together.
Well, General, now since 1999, we've been hearing about reforms in the security sector. This is 2025. Many Nigerians will tell you that they have not seen the effect of those reforms, from Obasanjo's presidency to President Tinubu's presidency. 2, we started hearing about recalibrating the architecture, security architecture. Some of us have been waiting for that building to be completed. We have not seen any architecture. 3, from architecture, we moved to kinetic and non-kinetic. There seems to be a disconnect between the kinetic and the non-kinetic. 4, there have been issues about human rights and welfare, particularly with regard to the other ranks, the rank and file, who started deserting the battlefront at a time, who started, protesting against their superior officers. Now, what are the special challenges that the Nigerian military is facing? Where is the disconnect between the kinetic and the non-kinetic, between human rights and welfare? Because it looks like this problem is still not going to go away very soon. The excuse that it is asymmetrical warfare, we have heard that, we know that. Architecture, we have had. When are we going to begin to see very concrete results? Where is the challenge?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abati. I think the challenge has to do with the nature of the warfare we're dealing with. In the past, it used to be the conventional type where we are dealing with one enemy against the other. Now, we are dealing with non-state actors that are like normal citizens within the area. So it makes it extremely difficult identifying who is who. You can only tell when you see them armed. If they're not armed, they're just like any other normal human beings. And so it makes it, and because again, a lot of them also are dealing with ideology. Now, ideology is of the mind. And once a person believes what he's doing is right, that when he dies, he's going to heaven, he's benefiting so much, he has nothing to lose. And that's the most dangerous enemy you have to fight with. Now, there is no disconnect between the kinetic and the non-kinetic. And that's why we've always preached that it is a whole of society approach. In the beginning, and that has worked, and that's why you see the number of people that have surrendered. Now we're also adopting same. Understand that Nigeria is over 900,000 square kilometers. It is massive. A lot of ungoverned areas with a lot of forests that cross across the region. Most of these forests that you see cross from Sambisa down to Niger State, across into Benin, Chad, and all those other areas. So it is very, very critical. It is massive. So what we are doing is that we're working together with the communities. Now, for us to have a final solution, if there's anything like final, because there's never a situation where you say there is any community is crime-free, is that we must have the backings of good governance. Good governance is important because most of these societies, when we get to these communities, a lot of them don't even know anything about government. You go there are no roads, no water, no electricity. And as long as we have poverty and hunger, these are areas, these are tools that they use to bring them into the fold. And that's why they recruit quite easily. I can tell you on a weekly basis, we're taking them out as many as possible. But the more you do that, the access they get from these other countries into Nigeria, movement of small arms and light weapons into Nigeria, movement of drugs. So it's a continuous, and that's why it's important that we must work together with our neighbors. Because working with them makes sure that they block their own borders, and once they do that, these things don't get into Nigeria. So there's nothing wrong with the non-kinetic and the kinetic. It's important that we do that. Because as we are fighting, you also have to show Nigerians that those you are protecting, that you are with them and you care about them. The issue of human rights, like I said, we've had several situations. I'm sure you remember the Reuters when they said that we had this 10,000 illegal abortions. After 1.5 years of investigation, it was found that it was just complete lies. And I was expecting Reuters to come in and apologize for it, but what did they do? Nothing. They've said nothing. They did not even respond. They didn't even find it words to even respond after maligning a whole country. And I think that's very important. I've discussed with the Attorney General of Federation, and I think it's important that Nigeria takes up this issue. What we realize is that anytime we're making inroad, anytime we're getting successes, these international organizations taking upon themselves to try and demoralize the country, malign Nigeria, demoralize our own troops. We have refused to be demoralized, and we will not be demoralized. We will continue to work, and we will continue to secure our territory, both inside and outside. And that's why it's very, very critical.
All right, thank you, sir. I have 2 questions for you very quickly. The first one is following up on what you said about 120,000, not during this in the previous interview, 120,000 Boko Haram members captured. The question for me is, what happens to them when they are captured? Number one, has there been any high-profile member capture that would give you valuable information to help in your fight against terrorism? That's number one. The second is, what then happens to them? Are they prosecuted, rehabilitated? What happens to them afterwards? Then the second question then would be this issue around collateral damage. Yesterday and this morning in the Daily Trust, a report has been made that some villagers in Zamfara, 17 of them civilians, have been killed by another accidental airstrike by the Navy and by the Air Force, sorry. I'd like you to respond to that. Are you aware of that? What is the issue with that? Then that's still following. We're still reeling from what happened on Christmas Day in Sokoto State. So I'd like you to respond to those two questions, please.
Thank you. Yes, like I said, the enemy we're dealing with is an enemy who has no borders, and they do not care what they do. And I can tell you it is not only on those aspects. We also have part of politics in it, part of sabotage in it. There are certain individuals that feel if they do this, they will make the country ungovernable or make it seem as if nothing is being done. And that's why they want to do everything. People are discussing with even the terrorists to make sure that they continue pushing their agenda to make Nigeria look as if it is unsafe. I can assure you that Nigeria is safe and Nigeria will continue to be safe. I'm sure you've seen the statistics of those, how a lot of foreigners and Nigerians that came in for the holiday having confidence that security is returning into Nigeria. We will continue to do that. They were not captured, they surrendered because we were able to put in measures to ensure that we deny them a lot of things, especially the oxygen, like I mentioned, getting phones, getting food, and all these things. And so a lot of them felt, and we gave them the window that if you come out, we'll take you in. And what we did is that anytime they came out, the first thing we did is that we were working together with the state government, working with the DSS, with the police, and the NIA. They were being profiled. Those ones that are really active members are kept at a side, while those, what we realized again is that not everyone that was part of it is a terrorist. Some of them were conscripted, some of them were forced, some were enslaved. So we're able to separate those aspects. And you know, I mentioned that over 120 surrendered. Out of this number, over 60,000 were children. Now, what were the terrorists doing? In the past, they used to capture communities and then force men, especially adults, to join them, whether they like it or not. If you refuse, they behead you. So you had no choice. But now that it became difficult, that they don't have any territory, they don't have a means of doing that, they now decided to start impregnating the women. And what they do is that if a woman gives birth, when she's 4 months after giving birth, they impregnate her again to have. They were trying to produce a new set of terrorists. And to us, those new sets will have been most dangerous. Why? Because we know for humans, any society that you grow in, what you see is what you think that is normal. Now, those guys, those kids growing up in a society where killing is rampant, beheading, and all sorts of inhuman activities, they will not have empathy. They will not have sympathy for anything. And that's why we're happy that over 60,000 have surrendered. And they are. So we have women, the elderly, and these children that have been kept outside. Those main actors are going through the eradication, and investigation is ongoing. Those ones found to be culpable will be tried. And I'm sure you know that the Attorney General has been prosecuting them of recent. We're taking those of them that were found to be free, taking them to Operation Safe Corridor in Gombe, where they are being de-radicalized, and then giving skills, because we understand that poverty, unemployment, hunger, illiteracy, these are aspects that also aggravate this issue. So we must address them. And that's why it's important for us to have a final solution is, I always go back to this, good governance. Our local governments must work well. Our governors must work well. We must have infrastructure. We must have food. We must have schools so that we remove illiteracy, because part of this issue is with illiteracy. I mean, some of them are being told that if a soldier kills you, you are going to paradise. And if you kill a soldier, you have blessing. So you see those worked ideas, which is not religious, it's not Islamic, it's not Christian. Evil people have taken advantage of them and using them. And what we also realize is that their commanders are living larger than life across the border, because they are surviving around the no man's land between Nigeria and these other neighboring countries. So that's why I always insist that it's important that we work together with these countries. We don't want them to leave ECOWAS. We want them to remain in ECOWAS so that we can continue to work. Whether those countries want their own kind of governance, it is left for them. But it's important that we work together.
All right, the second one about the airstrikes, the one that happened in Zamfara yesterday. The airstrikes, the accidental.
Yes, the airstrike. Like I said, good. The issue of the airstrike is still the same thing. Before we conduct any airstrike, we follow up movements. And I can tell you, when we do airstrikes, we do it with precision. Now we cannot rule out secondary explosion. Why? Because again, within areas where they keep these things, they have weapons, they have bombs, they have ammunition, explosives that they keep. So sometimes if it goes up, you cannot rule out the aspect that civilians might be affected. But we do not deliberately target civilian population. We avoid as much as possible. We have videos that we follow up before any strike is conducted. Now, what is happening is that, like I said, in the past we have had traditional rulers, religious leaders that are also part of these things aggravating this situation. Normally, once these things happen, they take advantage and want to make it. And maybe a question we should ask, why is it that when we are succeeding, that's when you keep on hearing this accidental airstrike here and there? Again, for us, I think it is just a way of demoralizing the troops, demoralizing our Air Force, and making it look as if we don't know what we're doing. We're investigating every airstrike they said that is an accident, or any airstrike that is conducted. We carry out thorough investigation, and we come out with this. Most times when they say there is any airstrike, before you go there, they tell you they've buried the people. Why not wait? And then let's also come and verify these issues. But like I can tell you, if there's anything like that, we conduct up reports, and then we take action against that.